transferred this year. Bong states that she may have indulged in a few combating returned on the college. Hsu says that he's proper, however there may be nevertheless greater to the tale. In a flashback we see the Hyu and her father residing collectively in a remote place her mom died in coincidence, and due to the fact then they've each been on my own. His father used to paintings in a mine and Wissou went to the college at that point. With inside a college there have been a few bullies who usually bullied a wealthy woman with inside the class. They take her matters and additionally tease her loads whilst she complained approximately them to the lecturers. The lecturers gave them a caution and did not anything else. However, the criticism infuriated all of the bully ladies, so this time they got here on the wealthy woman named Shinny Wan. The bully woman even indicates off a knife to threaten Shinhai, who Izu has been silent until this point. However, she can't be silent anymore. She stands up and demanding situations the ones ladies for a combat. She takes them out at the floor for the combat and begins a evolved beating them. The bully woman bites her and makes use of knives on her. However, Haisu's accidents heal quickly. The bully ladies are greatly surprised with the aid of seeing this miracle. Hilosu then beats them to the floor. Tomorrow Juon is referred to as into the college. Hyu is struck off from their college. Instructors assume that Hisu began out the combat and beat all of the ladies due to the fact Hyu has no symptoms and symptoms of wounds on her frame, so the problem isn't always taken into consideration. A protection assault. Jan has to promote his residents to pay for the sanatorium dues of all of the college students who were given injured, so now he's left and not using the cash due to the fact he'll lose his mining process in the event that they visit the place of the brand new college out of doors. The college. Hisu asks her father approximately her circumstance. She desires to understand why she would not get injured and heals all her wounds so effortlessly. Jan already is aware of approximately Hisu's potential and tells her that she is a talented baby. Additionally, her mom did not need her to understand this mystery, so he hid it from her. Returned with inside the gift. Hisu tells the entire tale to Bong Sik, who encourages her returned, and their friendship strengthens even greater. The subsequent morning, Jan is going for a transport of meals. He notices that someone is killed in that constructing at nighttime, and lots of better officers are at the crime scene analyzing the situation. Someplace with inside the workplace of National Intelligence Services, the secretary of the vintage guy we noticed in advance informs him approximately the latest deaths of people with unique skills. The antique guy's call is Mr. Guys, who already is aware of approximately the skills of these people who died, and he's genuinely worried approximately their deaths. He speculates that the CIA is in the back of the deaths of those human beings. Tomorrow Frank is going to the funeral of that antique woman who changed into a barber. He attempts to extract records approximately the organic infant of the deceased lady, however can't discover any greater pursuable lead. The son of the electrical guy whom Frank killed in advance is likewise gift with inside the constructing, mourning the demise of his father. His call is Cho Tai Hyen, and he additionally has the capacity to govern electric-powered currents with inside the interim. Frank leaves the funeral residence in his van. Tomorrow there may be a brand new scholar at faculty who are given transferred from a few different faculties. She is none apart from Shin Haiwan, the wealthy woman for whom Hisu fought at her preceding faculty. Then we see the tale of Cho Tai Hun. He's a bus driving force now, however he struggled plenty in his formative years. The symptoms of his unique skills regarded in his magnificence very early, including whilst his hair used to get immediately on every occasion he rubbed it with paper. However, then he changed into transferred to the unique faculty wherein Bongsak and Huasu are reading in recent times. There Mr. Choi asks him to educate for admission at the sports activities quota. Even though he does not have any obvious dispositions to it, he practices tough for admission. However, on commencement day, enormously Mr. Choi asks him to fundamental and mass communications. In the end he ended up on the audition for a superhero individual for a child display named Bungman. There he changed into capable of galvanize the examiners together along with his electric-powered modern day. The usage of skills he were given the activity as a bungman and have become well known amongst youngsters inside no time. However, in the future his hand glove changed into torn up and he by accident triggered electric powered bursts all through the stay. Overall performance at the degree this made all The youngster's fearful and he needed to surrender from his activity. After a few days the daddy of Choi Hyun inspired him to observe once more for the roles, however he changed into rejected anywhere. So in the future, whilst he's consuming at a eating place, he sees a bus driving force involved approximately the useless batter of his bus. As Choi Hyun has a modern day in his arms, he is going to assist that bus driving force. He costs up the batteries very quickly. That bus driving force have become satisfied, and because the proprietor of the bus he provided to work for Choi Hyun, considering the fact that then Hyun has been using the bus and meets Bongak every day on his morning course toward faculty at GIF. Choi Hyun is irritated at his father's assassin and needs revenge. In the meantime, on the faculty, a scholar named Kisu, whom Gang Hyun crushed in advance, contains his leftover meal and throws it into the plate of Gang Hyun. Then he places the glasses of Gang Hyun onto the lunch plate to disrespect him. Kisu says to Gang Hyun that he would not worry him and that he is aware that Gang Hyun cannot assault him in public. Additionally, he tells him that he goes to show him to the public quickly. After that, Bong Yo takes out the glasses of Gang Hyun from the plate and cleans them. Kisu returns the glasses to Gang Hyun and motivates him, announcing that he did an awesome process through now no longer escalating the combat with Kisu. He may want to combat again. However, he selected to live calm, which become the want of the hour. Gang Hyun turns into satisfied at locating that Hisu is on his aspect. He thank her for returning the glasses, after which leaves the fitness center room for her. After a while Bongak performs a few tune for Hyu. They get near every different. However, earlier than Bongak is going into the air once more, Hisu places weight on him. Bong leaves his telecell smartphone with tune being performed on it for Hyu with inside the fitness center, and he is going to take the class. However, Frank has were given permission to kill his subsequent goal, and it is the mom of Bongak, Miss Lee Mi Hyun. While Bong Yi returns again to the fitness center, he sees that the telecell smartphone is powered off due to the fact its battery is lifeless. He gets tense due to the fact his mom has strictly prohibited him from turning off his telecell smartphone, so he fast leaves for his mom in order that his mom could now no longer get concerned approximately him. Additionally, Gang Hyun has additionally reached again domestic and meets his father, who additionally has unique capabilities. However, he's on probation through the government and cannot depart his domestic. In the meantime, Juan is buying a brand new telecell smartphone for his daughter while Hisu reaches domestic. One surprises her with a new telecell smartphone with inside the NIS. The secretary informs Mr. Minutes with affirmation that Frank has been dispatched through the CIA to kill all the retired unique sellers. Mr. Minutes asks her to name for the ambassador of the U.S. of America to his workplace. Quickly, the ambassador of the CIA reached the workplace of Mr. Minister. At the beginning, the ambassador pretends that he would not recognize something. However, then Mr. Minutes suggests him the evidence of CIA involvement with inside the current deaths of unique people of their kingdom who retired from the name of the game organizations. Then the ambassador has the same opinion that they really have dispatched an agent. Now Mr. Minutes asks him to prevent that agent from pursuing his task. In addition, in any other case, he's going to make a name to China and each nations will begin an assault on them. Then the scene shifts to Miss Lee Mi Hyun, who's busy at her eating place while Frank is available, and she has already diagnosed him because the killer via way of means of seeing his van gift on the preceding homicide scenes. She texts Bongak now no longer to return back domestic for a while, after which begins evolved preparing a meal for Frank. However, the cellular telecell smartphone Bong seeks is useless, so he doesn't acquire the texts and is going immediately into the eating place. Leave out Lee Hyun pretends that Bong is some other patron, asks him to take a seat down at a desk and is going to get a meal for him. However, in fact, she fetches out her gun and hides it at the back of her cooking robe. With inside the intervening time, Frank is speaking with Bong seek approximately his college simply while Frank is loose from his meal and he is ready to begin his venture. He receives a message from the ambassador to keep, so Frank will pay for the meal and leaves without doing whatever. Then Miss Lee Mi Hyun is irritated at Bunk for now no longer following her orders, now no longer to return back domestic. Bunk says that his telecell smartphone is useless. However, Miss Lee Mihyun may be very irritated at him and would not need to listen any excuse. In a flashback we see a few children being crushed badly via way of means of the police harshly take the children to a penitentiary, and from that middle one of the children makes it viable to get away while he's strolling far from the middle a few of the lengthy grass the police soldier is capturing at the negative child, and he receives a shot to returned to the prevailing while Frank goes returned in his van. The ambassador texts him the subsequent goal. Right here the ambassador is doing a double sport. Lamentably the subsequent goal is one, so Frank speedily takes a U-flip, and in doing so he is ready to crash into Cho Tae-hyun's bus. Fortuitously Tae-hyun carried out the brakes on time. He acknowledges the person because the assassin of his father, so Tae-hyun begins evolved chasing him together along with his bus. He bumps his bus into his van and asks him to forestall, however Frank takes him into the wasteland while Cho Tae-hyun follows him there. Frank all of a sudden comes from a aspect and crashes his van into the bus. Tae-hyun takes out a mobiler and makes use of its electric-powered present day to assault Frank. He's extraordinarily irritated on the assassin, however he's too susceptible to harm him. He attempts time and again to beat Frank, however with inside the manner he receives crushed via way of means of Frank himself, and while the battery mobiler is discharged absolutely Tae-hyun is sort of a powerless baby in the front of Frank. After that Frank is going to Juan save, however Jan isn't get there. He sees the order receipt at the desk which suggests that Jan is out to supply meals someplace, so Frank speedily receives into his van and drives off closer to Juan. On accomplishing his bike Frank crashes his van into Juan's motorcycle, then he drives the van over Jan more than one instances, ensuring that he's lifeless. Immediately after that Frank is going again to the wasteland and texts his boss to mention that the paintings is completed proper. Then Jan comes out from underneath the van and smashes the glass window to get Frank out of the car. Jan additionally has the potential to heal quick, it's why he's nonetheless alive after this kind of gruesome homicide try. Then Juan examines the document gift with inside the van. It has the listing of objectives Frank has to dispose of, and all of the human beings are individuals who labored with inside the mystery groups and feature unique talents. Meanwhile Frank is again in his attention. He assaults Jan and they begin preventing each have the potential to heal their wounds quick. However this time Jan proves to be more potent than Frank. He offers immediately punches into the face of Frank once more, and once more it looks as if this time Frank is without a doubt lifeless. Then Juan takes out all of the goal listing files and units them on hearthplace in conjunction with the truck whilst Frank's frame is interior. At the subsequent morning Miss Lee Hyun receives Bongak prepared for college with a few more weights around his legs. This time Miss Lee additionally offers him an electricity financial institution to rate his telecell smartphone battery on every occasion wished. She asks him to live in touch at the telecell smartphone all of the time and springs again domestic immediately after. The magnificence as tests at the moment are close to and he has to put together for them one night time earlier than the examination. His texts Bunk and wishes him nice for the following day. Bunk will become glad through seeing her texts. Hello Sue asks him to open the window and appears out of doors. Hello Sue's status there at a much distance waving at Bongak. Our boy has the talents of his mom too, so he can examine some distances and his senses are very sharp. Seeing Hua's status there on my own he jumps from there and reaches to her. Hisa says that Bongak has been usually to be had for her on every occasion she wished, it's why she desired to wish nice of good fortune to him in this night time. In any other case she could now no longer have come to trouble him. Then Hisu lifts a close by big stone and locations it with inside the lap of Bunk. After that she confesses to him that she additionally likes him lots. The following day is the sports activities exam and all people is enthusiastic about it. Bong Suk and Gang Hyun play badminton collectively whilst Hye-soo practices the excessive bounce on every occasion. She jumps and forces her hand on the peak meter. The screws of the steel body retaining that meter emerges unfastened, and ultimately whilst Hisu crosses the crimson line mark at the meter through leaping the maximum of her profession, the screws pop out in their positions and the steel body falls. Hello Sue's status proper of athletic flow even as others suppose it's far destined with inside the intervening time. Banguk is unhappy due to the fact he couldn't assist. Now he's practicing to fly with inside the air due to the fact he by no means desires to fail once more. While his mom got here to peer him with inside the room, she couldn't discover him there. She is going outdoor and sees that Bangsak is practicing his ability, however is falling over and over at the floor with inside the method. Seeing his mom, he once more falls to the floor. His mom asks him what he's doing outdoor. Then Bangsak replies that he desires to fly with inside the air. He desired to keep his Su, however couldn't, and it became due to the fact his mom tied him to the floor. He appears like being tied all of the time via way of means of the strings. Now he desires to be unfastened and desires to contact the sky. Listening to this, Miss Lee Hyun cries to him and says that he desires to end up like his father. It's far the primary time Miss Lee Hyun is speaking. Approximately the daddy of Banguk, his father, had the potential to fly with inside the air much like Banguk, however it did not gain him ultimately leave out. Lee Hyun begins evolved weeping, telling the tale of his father. Listening to this, Banguk then recollects that flying with inside the sky became now no longer an awful dream, however a reminiscence of his adolescence. He used to fly together along with his father with inside the skies. Then we get the tale of the daddy of Banguk, whose call is Kim Dick. He used to paintings with inside the National Intelligence Services as a pioneer agent with unique competencies. Leave out Lee Hyun additionally works with inside the data branch. Someday the boss Mr. Minutes calls Miss Lee Hyun to assign her a brand new venture. She failed in her preceding venture, however Mr. Minutes is aware of that Ms. Lee Hyun has unique competencies. Her senses are extraordinarily sharp and he or she is the youngest of the graduates of their branch. She is right at adjusting to the given conditions quick, so Mr. Minutes desires to deliver her every other risk. This time her process is to get toward their very own agent Kim Dick. Her responsibility is to make him fall in love, after which extract a few mystery data from him. In her preceding venture, which went very badly, her group became looking for a traitor at an occasion. Leave out Lee Hyun sang an excellent song there, however while the group began out firing bullets on the harmless humans there to discover the traitor, Miss Lee Hyun acted towards her very own group and Charji's commands. She became requested to blow up a smoke grenade, however Miss Lee Hyun exploded the only that produced an excessive frequency of sound waves. The one's waves had been excessive, sufficient to divert the attention of her group individuals. Then she shot on the door lock to open it and signaled the humans to escape from that region so deep internal. She is a great human who may even move towards the orders of her better officers to do correct deeds. So from the subsequent day Miss Lee Hyun begins evolved to biscuit via way of means of Kim Dick regularly with inside the branch. Each time he enters the constructing, Miss Lee Hyun receives a name from the defend on the gate and she or he fast is going to the race sporting a few documents, or she is gift at the espresso system watching for her goal. Kim Do-sik has additionally commenced noticing her. He has additionally visible Miss Lee Hyun more than one instances. So someday while Miss Lee Hyun is watching for Kim Dick on the espresso system, Kim Do-sik actually comes close to he appears to be attracted via way of means of her. They greet every different there for the primary time, after which revel in their espresso. There Kim Dick exhibits that he knew that Miss Lee Hyun changed into spying on him, as Miss Lee Hyun continually carried the equal documents together along with her, which made Kim Dick suspicious of her. However he nevertheless acted generally due to the fact he changed into drawn to her virtually. So now that Miss Lee Hyun's project has failed, she can be able to must face complaint from her boss. However Kim Do-sik takes her to dinner to make her temper. They revel in a king-sized donkey collectively on the eating place. Then additionally they move for a stroll outdoor with inside the night time. Leave out Lee Hyun tells him that she goes to inform Mr. Minutes that she has failed in her project. However Kim Dick stops her from doing this. He desires to hold matters going as there now he needs her to hold appearing as an undercover agent on him due to the fact on this manner he might be capable of provide Mr. Minutes the records that he needs. Additionally on this manner Miss Lee Hyun might now no longer must face the cruel conduct of her boss. Day after today Mr. Minutes requires Miss Lee Hyun while she is going to satisfy him. She sees a few mystery cassettes gift there approximately which Miss Lee Hyun does not know Whatever Mr. Minutes asks her approximately the development of the project, to which Miss Li-hyun replies that she is doing well. She has ended up toward Kim Dusk, however, nevertheless has now no longer discovered any mystery, so Mr. Minutes asks her to retain her task and locate what he needs as quickly as feasible. Once you have out, Miss Li-hyun gave a few recommendation to the secretary Mr. Minutes approximately her get-dressed fashion and the technique of creating espresso. The secretary is extremely grateful to her for such a chunk of a recommendation. The manager of Miss Li-hyun is angry via way of means of the eye she is getting from the boss, so she reprimands her for not anything that night time while Miss Li-hyun change into operating past due at her office. On my own, she heard a few unusual